Oh, right.
We're back.
So, So, what has obviously brand new with the Wise Blood? How has the reaction been? I know it's kind of in your launching stages right now, but what are people saying? What's been going on? How's the excitement level? All that kind of stuff.
Yeah, I think I think people are really excited from what we're seeing on the social media. Like people are like, oh, I can't wait, and so it's really exciting to know. Oops, sorry. It's exciting when we know that the Wise Bloods have hit the shelf, and then it's like, now you can go get it.
That's a relief.
Yeah, and it's like now you can go get it, and like that's normal in the industry, right? Like you get the announcement, and then you're like, okay, and then you see all the influencers have it, and you see all the podcasters, like, oh, they all have it. I'm like, hurry up and release it already. And so yeah, people are really excited. We've gotten a lot of messages about our launch event at Burn at the Battery tomorrow night, and so that's really exciting. Again, being a part of the Luciana Cigars family, obviously they're also promoting it on their socials, and like their community are seeing all the buzz about it, and so it's exciting. I think people are kind of fiending for it, so to speak. Like they're ready to try it, and I think it's exciting.
If they're not ready, something's wrong with them. I'm just being honest with you. You were talking about the event tomorrow down at Burn. Yesterday was kind of like a pre-launch or something like that here at Fellowship, right? How did that go? Were you here for that?
Mm-mm.
No? Okay.
You can ask, yeah.
Yeah, we'll get the other guys in, see what they had to say about it.
No,
but it looked good.
Yeah, and Burn is going to be exciting. We got some, fun little swag, like some swag and some like giveaway items that are new. So that's going to be fun. You have to come and see and come and see and get you get some new swag, and so that's always like fun and exciting to have new product to come along with it. Yeah,
when you have your hand in on something and you say, hey, you know what, it's my stuff on the shelf. That's got to be exciting.
It is exciting.
Maybe one day.
It's funny. I was telling some friends, I'm like, I gotta leave early today. I'm gonna be on this podcast. They're like, podcast? What? I'm like, yeah, it's gonna be at Fellowship. Do you know who Cam Newton is? Like they're like, what? And I was like, yeah, he opened up this cigar lounge. They're like, do you know who Cam Newton is? So I'm like,
no,
I do, but trying to downplay it a little bit. I'm just trying to downplay. It's just this thing that we're doing.
No, you're a superstar. So, come on now.
But it is exciting to be able to share with the city. Share with our friends, to share with the country,
right?
The new hotness that's out there.
Yeah, I'm excited. Like I saw that post.
Come on, Bad Boys.
Right, exactly. Was it new hotness? I know.
Yeah, I'm excited. I mean, I'm a spirit guy by nature, but man, this whole cigar thing, man, has got me hooked. And I just seeing that post today. Like, I'm excited to meet the guy.
Yeah,
I'm excited to be around you guys tomorrow. I think it's gonna be awesome.
It's gonna be fun. I can't wait. Burn is always a good location.
Yeah,
they always do a great job. For especially the ladies' night that they have.
Mm-hmm.
But they also do a good job for like cigar releases and things like that. So, have you guys done one there before?
No, we haven't.
No, first time.
This will be our first one. Yeah, it's a beautiful space.
Yeah, great space.
It's a beautiful space.
Good vibe. Good music. Just great time. Great time. I was there for Rocky whenever he did the anniversary party. That was pretty cool.
Yeah.
Always good seeing Rocky. So, Janelle is that person for ATL Cigar Co. Janelle does all the aesthetics, as you guys know and have heard. We talked a little bit about the coloring of the bands with her. We talked a little bit about the distro with her.
Making a mess over here.
Huh?
So they're making a mess over here?
That's what we do as cigar smokers, right? I mean, we just dump wherever we can.
Sorry. Normally it's Peter.
There's no control.
We have nicknames, and Peter is Ashy Pete because he's always ashing everywhere.
I love that.
I don't have a nickname yet, so I'm just kind of throwing that out there.
Ashy Pete?
Leroy's good at doling out nicknames.
I have a name. I had a call sign in the Navy. It was Trouble Man.
Trouble Man.
Yeah.
That sounds like a good name for a new cigar.
Yeah.
Just saying.
Good old Marvin Gaye reference.
Good trouble.
Yeah, you can't touch good trouble.
Correct.
Yeah, you can't touch good trouble.
Correct.
That's the one and only.
All right, it was worth a shot.
Yeah.
It was worth a shot.
Janelle, it's always a pleasure talking to you.
Thank you for having me.
We got to get the other two guys in here. I always love seeing you. Always love talking to you. It's always fun. You always have a great smile on your face. So I'm always happy to see you. Always happy to see you.
Thanks
Ladies
for
and
making
gentlemen.
pretty.
Right.
Right? I mean, come on.
Ladies and gentlemen, Miss Janelle Lamar, ATL Cigar Co. First Lady, HBIC. It's always good to see you. Always good to see you.
Thank you for having me.
Yes.
Very excited.
We'll
to be
see you
here.
tomorrow.
Yeah, that'll be good times.
Tomorrow
good
night.
Times.
So we're gonna get the other guys in. Should we bring them both in, Nick?
Yeah,
I think
let's bring
Janelle
them
deserved
We'll
her
fit them all
own.
in. Yeah, Janelle.
She deserved her own space. You know, I think that was cool.
The boys are bigger.
And obviously, Leo wants people closer to him. I can't do that. So, you know.
I don't necessarily listen. We already never mind.
I mean, we could stop there. I'm just saying. Like,
It's
we'll get them
always
both.
right. It's always cool. Thank you, Janelle.
Thanks,
We
everybody.
Appreciate you.
So, yeah, what are you thinking of this so far, dude? Like, pretty good. Huh?
Yo, I'm gonna tell you right now, man. I got a little bit of like that spice, baking spice
Yeah.
on the back. Still a little woodsy.
Yes.
I need to relight because I've been walking around with it in my hand, so it's burning very awkward right now.
No, hey.
But I mean, you got it going on because you've been chilling. I get it. But I'm just gonna touch this thing.
I'm the best at chilling.
Hey man, ain't nothing wrong with it. We do what we got to do.
We got to do what we got to do. But no, I'm with you with the woodsy. But yeah, Peter made a good point. Like that after kind of chewiness, kind of want to swallow it. Like I've never thought about that in terms of, you know, obviously when we're sipping on stuff, like we're swallowing it, unless you're tasting and you're doing 10 tastings a day, and then you guys, you know, do the old spit thing.
Well,
I don't ever do anyway.
Well, you know what we call that? We actually call that chewing the smoke.
Chewing the smoke.
Yeah.
All right.
You know, it's a little bit different in the liquid world because you know you kind of whirl it around in the mouth a little bit and let it fall down. Yeah. So
no, that's a good. I mean, it's a very good observation because I think of the finish, but not when I'm swallowing. Like then I'm swallowing and I'm like, okay, right to the next puff.
So I think we are all set now. We're gonna bring the guys in of ATL Cigar Co. Mr. Leroy Lamar. We're gonna get Mr. Peter Gross in here as soon as he gets his mic all connected. I think he's good to go now. I love the opportunity to sit next to Peter and talk with him. Why did the room just get dark?
Bro,
lots of dudes.
That's a whole lot of light, man.
It's a whole lot of light on you.
You look like a damn ghost, bro.
Correct.
You are
tilt my hat
man.
up so you can see me.
You are
My
in
shirt's
here.
blending into the background. At least you can see the.
I think it's our white shirts and just
I was
like
gonna say, you know what I think it was? I think it was the shirts, and we had the orange of the couch.
the couch.
Yeah, it brought out a little bit of color. So I thought that was pretty cool.
That
That's
was
all
like
right
a-
though. So
Nasty Oreo. This is weird looking. Look at
this is
that.
a weird
Hey,
kind of
everybody.
You know,
stuff
I mean,
going on,
like,
dude.
like I always like to think
Double
about.
stuff.
right. I don't know if it's a double stuff or it's a single double cookie
No, that's double stuff.
with the cream at the end. I don't know. This is just something weird, man. I like it though. I
You,
love.
you know what I love about you guys, man, is that you got a great voice for radio, and Nick's got a great face for radio. So you know, like between the two of y'all, it works out really
We're
well.
gonna make something happen.
I wouldn't say that.
No,
I wouldn't say that.
A voice for radio and
I
a
wouldn't
face
say
for
that.
radio.
No. Hey, I'll take it.
I'm not gonna say that to you, man. I think
Love you,
look
Nick.
handsome.
Oh man, it's good to have you guys here, man. I really do appreciate the time. I also appreciate Peter with the time here, man. You know, my first time, like I said, really having you on camera. You know, we've talked and all that good stuff, and whenever we're out in town, but you know, to have you on camera is a little bit different because now I get to be in my element.
Yeah.
No, it's good to be here with you
Your
guys,
space,
man.
your
It's
space. Yeah.
it's an honor to be on the podcast, and you know, really, we were just saying when Janelle was on here, it's just it's important for moments like this when we're in the fire and we're in the middle of the daily operation. I'm getting hit up from the factory right now in Esteli about this and this and this. That you know, we can just kind of take a minute and reflect and be like, you know, it's working, you know.
Yeah. Yeah. Just to breathe a little bit, to just come up from the waves,
Right.
from the crashing, and just breathe. And then in about an hour, we'll dive back in.
Right.
And we'll see
Another
see
big
you
one.
guys on the other side.
Right.
Right. Like that's the plan.
So I know Nick has some questions. We're gonna get to the Wise Blood. That's why we're here today.
Okay.
The Wise Blood is something that I know is near and dear to you, Leroy. But Peter has another aspect of the company, which I want to dive into because I noticed you always down in the tobacco farms, right? You're always at the factory. So I want to kind of lay it out for everybody because we talked to Janelle about what her role is. So Peter, kind of tell us what your role is with ATL Cigar Co, man.
Yeah, so I'm head of product for ATL Cigar Co. And so when we started out with Leroy as president and Janelle as marketing head, and for me, with me as head of product, I think, my job was to ensure that the quality met the expectations of ATL, because you cannot have a shirt that says ATL Cigar Company and bring some bullshit into your stores. And so we had to meet that expectation. And so for me, beginning our relationships with our various factories and now kind of consolidating into Luciano. By the way, it's important to clarify, Luciano did create our ATL Magic. He reblended our ATL Black. He blended this ATL Wise Blood as well. But we're going to bring all production to Luciano Cigars, so they'll do the Good Trouble. And we'll have some new stuff coming out this year as well. So some more new stuff after the Wise Blood. So we're just going to keep rolling out. And so my job is really to liaise between ATL Cigar Company and the factory. And so I also have a dual hat as COO of Luciano Cigars. And so, ATL Cigar Company is a shareholder of Luciano Cigars. Okay. And we're within the family of brands that Luciano Cigars has. And so I have to oversee all of that in addition to, my role with ATL. But I'm so glad, obviously, and honored to have such strong partners like Leroy and Janelle to do so much of the important work to make this business work and really keep us rooted, keep us purposeful, keep us kind of moving forward in our local market. While, my job is to kind of look beyond and do these other things. And so as part of that, I think the important thing for people to know is that because of Luciano Cigars, ATL Cigar Co. is now carried in Canada, in Switzerland, in New Zealand. We'll be going to Bulgaria, to Peru, to Dubai, Saudi Arabia. And so that's the reach that Luciano has. We're in Idaho, we're in Puerto Rico. Luciano's worldwide, and that's going to take ATL worldwide as well. And so, the quality of the product speaks for itself. And I hope that, when our ATL family is traveling and they go to a local cigar shop and they see ATL, they feel a little bit at home and they also feel a little bit of pride that they kind of knew us, way back when, so to speak. But like Janelle said, we're never going to lose that connection to the city and that connection to kind of what our passion is, which is for the city to become connected and bridged, so to speak, through in part to the work we're trying to do.
Yeah.
Man, I really, when I got introduced to ATL Cigar Co. because I was out in San Diego some years ago, like 2 years ago, and I got wind of, hey, have you heard about this ATL Cigar Co? Like, no, so I had somebody send it to me. And the first thing I did, just like most guys, whenever we go into the cigar lounge, right, we always look at the band. And when I saw this, the first thing I thought about was the Braves. The first thing I thought about, Then the next thing I thought about was just the letters ATL, because having lived here before, that's just been the acronym ATL, ATL. So when I saw this, I said, okay, this is something new. This is something different. I want to smoke it. And I think I've told Leroy this before, but I wasn't crazy in the beginning about the black because I had the Good Trouble and I had the black. And I wasn't crazy about the black. I was like, this thing is just, I don't know. I couldn't put my finger on it. It was just very earthy to me. It was very spicy. And I said, you know what? Maybe that's what was going for, because when I look at the band, right, it's black, earth, right, spice, all right, everything dark about it. But the ATL, just the branding itself, I think is real important. When I look at this, I see the shield that's on here. It does go to exactly what you said, man. I mean, if you're from Atlanta, you want something that's always going to be a piece of home. You want something that you can say that this is my home. And that's what I see when I look at this, in all honesty, right? So I really do appreciate what you guys have as far as the company, as far as what you've done with all the branding. It's just perfect. Like I said earlier, I always support where I am. And hell, I'd support this if I was back in San Diego.
We appreciate that. We really do. We really do. I mean, everything that we've tried to do with the branding, like Janelle said, all of the crest, all of the bands speak to to the cigar. Like Nick said, like when he looks at the band, he gets a feeling about what he's going to experience, what he's going to smoke. And each of our cigars that carry the ATL crest are intended to express a different part of the city. They are intended to give the smoker an opportunity to experience some part of Atlanta. So that's why all of our cigars are very different. There are some cigar makers they're like slight variations on kind of their core blend or that common concept.
Habano, Corojo, Maduro.
Right. So, but it's the same filler, whatever, maybe the same binder, and only the wrapper is what's changed. And they might have 20 cigars in their portfolio with all minor changes to them. But for us, like, we're trying to tell a story. And we're trying to give people the experience of a city that, in my opinion, is being my city. When people are like, well, Atlanta didn't become anything to 1996. I'm like, what are you
Wait a
talking
minute.
about?
Hold on.
Yeah. I'm like,
first off, Freaknik
right.
94.
Right. I was hanging out with my mama van. So there is so much to this city that people don't know and don't understand. And this is kind of our opportunity to expose them to that, but in a way that should be comfortable to their palates as cigar smokers, but also gives us an opportunity to tell that story and to build a community. And so all of the sticks also not only tell a story, but they do have that dual role of allowing for deeper conversation. So for example, the Good Trouble, right? We can talk about the construction, we can talk about the makeup and the blend, but then once you start talking about John Lewis, and you start talking about what it means to be a good troublemaker, right? That opens up a space for conversation for you and your smoking your partner, your interlocutor, whoever you're going at it with, to be able to talk about some of those deeper issues around social justice, around politics, around and the Wise Blood does that in particular. In fact, I think this is our most provocative cigar to date.
Yeah.
And intentionally so.
Okay.
And Peter and I actually had a conversation about it. Should we do this?
Yeah.
And
I definitely want to get into that with you. Yeah.
Okay. We had a conversation about should we do this? But we both felt like, given what we want to do in the city, given what we want to do in telling Atlanta's history, and exposing people to all that Atlanta is, and creating space for that conversation, it really was a no-brainer. So that's, in my opinion, the marketing, the branding goes hand in hand with the storyteller, and goes hand in hand with the community building, and goes hand in hand with, that's a lot of hands, man. We're like a deity. We're like a Hindu deity at this point.
Shiva.
We're Shiva at this point. But we're trying to expand what it means to be a cigar smoker. Not what it means to be a cigar smoker. These are things that are inherent. Like you said, everybody talks about what this is in the cigar community.
Right.
We want to enhance that and pull that out and be intentional about it.
Okay.
Right.
All right.
I want you to actually have an opportunity, create an opportunity for you to have those conversations by the cigar that you're smoking, not just because it has a cool name or whatever, but it actually causes you to interact with the person that's sitting around across from you. It forces you to have those conversations.
I mean, and you and I were born and bred here. Like, we've seen the changes that have come to Atlanta over the last decade, 20 years, really even over the last 5. And I think a lot of people feel like Atlanta's just kind of in the middle there. Like, people don't really know what Atlanta's about. You're kind of lost there. Don't really know the history. I found out a lot about that when I was with ASW and our storytelling, and what bourbon and rye meant to Atlanta back pre-prohibition, post-prohibition, and just the changes that we've seen the city come culturally. And you got to tie that all together, to some degree.
I think it's important to. I think people,
you have to talk about it.
In some places it's easier to do. In some places, I mean, part of the thing is that most places, if you're not in Tampa, you're not in Miami, you're not in Cuba, you're not in Nicaragua, where your name is synonymous with tobacco. Most people, it's about their lineage, their heritage. They they want to tie themselves to those
My
places.
4th generation Cuban grandfather
Right.
who
Right.
Yeah.
Right. You never been to Cuba in your life, son. But you tie yourself to those places because that's a story that can sell, right?
Right.
And people are going to trust my cigar because I am in some way connected to Cuba. But for us and for other people, like they just tie it to their name. Like I'm just so and so, and I made a cigar.
Mm-hmm.
But for us, we did tie it to the city, and so because we tied it to the
a lot
city,
of guts when you tie it to a city.
absolutely.
we were drunk.
And a city that's not known for cigars.
No. Right.
We're a city that's known for Freaknik.
Yeah.
So how do you do that? But we are again, something people don't realize is the what Atlanta means to the cigar industry. Now, insiders, industry people know. They're always like, how do I get into Atlanta? How do I break into that market? How do I sell in Atlanta? Because Atlanta is very much prominent in the cigar world. I don't think that people give it the respect that it deserves in terms of being in the cigar world, but people know that they have to have a strong presence here.
How do you, and I hate to cut you off.
Go ahead.
That was a very good point. I have a question behind that is, how do you really plan on tying cigars into Atlanta and the rest of the cigar world? Because like you said, there's some people, they put a name on it, their own name or a company name, or they have some other ties to something else. Atlanta's a big city known for a lot of different things, right?
Right.
I don't want to get too far into it, but I mean, how do you plan on tying in cigars, Atlanta, into the cigar world?
Well, I think the way we've done it is our plan. One is to, like Janelle said, we want to export Atlanta to the rest of the world. We want to show the rest of the world what Atlanta is through amazing cigars, through really, really good cigars that we took our time on, that Peter definitely works patiently on to make sure all the processes are in place, and it's a lot. It's a lot to bear.
Sure.
It's a lot to bear. And he bears it exceptionally well. And so
Sometimes.
I think most times. Damn it. So
everybody.
So
If you smoke cigars, you're gonna ash on yourself someday.
So I think that that's phase one, and then phase two, I think, is to continue the conversation by once we have solidified ourselves as a major player in the cigar industry, which I think we are doing. I think the next phase is to then continue to do that, but to speak from Atlanta, not just for Atlanta. And so that's the next phase, to speak from Atlanta, not just for Atlanta. And I think doing that allows us to allow the industry to see, we're serious. It allows the world to see that we're serious. But again, I mean, I think the quality of our cigars and the fact of where Peter said we are, and the places that we've gone into with Luciano's help has allowed us to be able to do that in ways that are extremely significant and extremely rare. I mean, we've done this really, really fast.
Yeah, you have. Yeah.
It's funny. Somebody told our customers tell us a lot about what we're actually doing. They kind of explain it back to us. I remember the first time a store ordered our stuff from Ohio, and I just called him. I was like, "Yo, why did you buy ATL cigars in Ohio?" And they're like, "Well, it's a good cigar." I was like, "Yeah, but what? How does that brand connect to you?" Like,
yeah.
And they said, "Well, do I know the Fuente family?
Ooh.
Do I know the Cuevas family?
Ooh.
No, it's a good cigar.
Ooh.
So ATL, if it's a good cigar, it's a good cigar." Now, at the same time, Atlanta is more than a city; it's an idea. Atlanta is a place where hustle comes from, but it's hustle with soul.
Yeah.
It's hustle with roots. It's hustle with purpose. It is, this city is a palette. This city is a canvas from which we want to paint, and it gives us so many different flavors. If you live in Stockbridge, you have a different experience of Atlanta than if you live in Alpharetta.
Sure, absolutely.
If you live in Decatur, or Bankhead, like you have a different experience of what this place is, and we want to tie all that together so that we can be a place that is not coming together in spite of our differences, but because of them.
E pluribus unum.
E pluribus unum. That's right. So fully, we put on this band, folium fratribus et sororibus. Like, brothers and sisters of the leaf. And for us, we want to really bring that together in our community, in our smokers, but beyond Atlanta, in everyone that enjoys ATL cigar, no matter where they are in the world. Another customer to us 2 weeks ago and said, hey, so y'all sold in Canada now? I was like, yeah, they have 400 boxes headed to Canada. And they said, so y'all can compete where there are Cuban cigars? I said, well, yeah, because they're better. Not ATL only,
Right.
but Nicaragua cigars are better than Cuban cigars. I said it. I'll say it again.
That's a strong statement.
Now here's why.
And I'm gonna tell you why I think that's a strong statement. But go ahead.
I was in the Partagas factory in Havana a few years ago,
damn, here we go.
and I was there also 20 years ago and a few times since. And 20 years ago, the youngest torsadors, the youngest rollers, had been there for 10, 12, 15 years. Now the oldest ones have been there 7, 8, 9 years. They've all left.
Wow.
And there's a lot we can talk about that, but it has changed. You can see Aganorsa bales from Nicaragua in the Partagas factory in Havana. They are using Nicaraguan leaf in Cuba. Why? Because it's good.
Yeah.
And because Cuba can only produce about 80 million cigars from the leaf that they produce in Cuba, and yet they sell 200 million. So you tell me. Right.
So I got kind of an idea behind that.
Exactly. And so, the reality is that Nicaragua has taken over. Nicaragua was 1 million cigars a year in 2000. It's 450 million now, 300 million out of Esteli alone. And so, it has taken over the industry. We are part of that. We're really honored to be with somebody like Luciano, who has this next level palate.
Yeah.
If you smell 10, he smells 100. If you taste 5, he tastes 500. He's just incredible at picking apart what's going on with tobacco, and he knows every single thing. And we're going to spend the rest of our lives trying to catch up.
Yeah.
But we're fortunate to be in that relationship and to be producing out of these fields and out of these factories that really do, in my view, put out the best cigars in the world.
And I was talking to Leroy. I think we were talking last week or something like that. Talking about Luciano, and Leroy has a musical background. I didn't know that, but as I think about it, Luciano is kind of like, and go with me on this one, Leroy. I think he's more or less like Stevie Wonder.
Yeah,
absolutely.
He's like the to me one of the last of a dying breed that can do what he does.
Yeah, no, that's for sure. That's for sure. Yeah, his abilities far transcend, and it's a blessing and a curse. And he'll tell you that for sure. But his creative abilities are in that other realm where you have geniuses.
Right. Yeah, agreed.
And I don't just say that because I believe this before. We were a part of the Luciano family of brands. That's one of the reasons we wanted to work with him. Once we got to know who he was and know what he did and smoked his stuff, and the whipping he put on us the first time we met him, we knew that we were in the presence of somebody that was not a normal guy.
Right.
When it came to being able to detect and understand and process tobacco, like this is not a common thing that's going on here. And he is next level. And so to be in next level again, he's in the genius level, right? He sits up there with your Stevie Wonders, your Princes,
I don't even compare him to other cigar people. It's other creatives.
Yeah, he's other creatives. Like he's in another space. Yeah. He's Bruce Lee. Put him in spaces where people just we don't make comparisons up on this level.
Right.
And he's up there.
So I wanna go back to Atlanta a little bit.
Okay.
The Wise Blood.
Okay.
So this is created because of one of Leroy's favorite authors. Is that correct?
It's one of my favorite books.
One of the favorite books.
Yeah.
So the author is Flannery O'Connor.
Correct.
Okay. I guess she her real name is Mary Flannery O'Connor, right? And
Catholic as fuck.
And
very
by the
much
way,
so.
she and I share the same birthday, March 25th.
Is that right?
Yeah, there we go.
Yeah, so
There we
I'm,
go.
I'm,
There
you
you
know,
go.
kind of excited to I was excited as I kept
There you
going
go.
through and learning about her.
Yeah,
You know, so I was like, okay, let me find out about this woman. So understanding that she's from Milledgeville,
correct.
right? So Milledgeville is a town, city here in Georgia. But Leroy, and I told you that, you know, I wanted to touch on this a little bit because you and I have had a lot of conversations. You were on a show with me before, and we were talking about, and Peter, not anything against you, but I've had a lot of people say, you know, that's not a Black-owned company. Okay.
Sure.
And Leroy and I, we had a conversation. If you guys want to go back and visit that that podcast or that live view, you're welcome to do that. You can find it under ATL Cigar Co. On the Barrels and Leaves BTB. But I'm not here to talk about that. What I am here to talk about, what I want to find out is the name Wise Blood is one of the books that she wrote.
Yeah.
Right? And understanding that from all the information I found is that she was kind of known to be a bigot, right? And Atlanta, with it being how it is such a melting pot now. You have people coming from all over the country, even different parts of the world, you know, so there's a lot of old racism that's still here in Atlanta. The Wise Blood, I have to ask you why you went with the Wise Blood, knowing the history of this woman.
Yeah, that's a good question. So that was the fight. That was the conversation that Peter and I had. It was because when I smoked this cigar took me to that book immediately. And as I continued to smoke it and think about the book, to me, it was just apparent that that was a name for the cigar. It was a very, I mean, I guess spiritual, if you want to say that type of thing. That was a name for the cigar. And I told Peter that, but I also came up with some other names. And I was like, we should go with this other name. And Peter was like, why? And I was like, well, because of Flannery O'Connor's history and who she was. And Peter was like, I think that's why we should name it that. Like, I think that we should not shy away from the facts and the history of Atlanta. We should not shy away from the facts and the history of Georgia. And if we are serious about creating conversation, and if we are serious about creating a space for that, why not lean into that? The book itself has a lot to do, not necessarily with race. There are moments of race in the book where she and this is a theme across Flannery O'Connor's work, and we can get into that, but it has more to do with what I saw of myself, what I saw of Peter in the book, and Flannery O'Connor's positions on race were secondary but also important to the conversation.
Sure. And
to the conversation that we should have, and to the history of Atlanta. So it wasn't something that we were ever going to shy away from. It goes to your point, to the point about, you know, is ATL a Black-owned brand? Like, why do we have that conversation?
Right.
We have that conversation because of Flannery O'Connor, right?
Mm-hmm.
We have that conversation because of Wise Blood. And so it you know, to me, it's important. Yes, ATL is a Black-owned company, but we're not a Black cigar company. We're a diverse cigar company. We're a cigar company that wants to extol the beauty that is Atlanta in all of its facets, in all of its ways.
Right.
And so that's why you have me, Janelle, and Peter, and you got Trent, who is, you know, Trent, I'm sure you're watching this and are listening to this. But Trent, you are country as fuck.
Right,
like,
he is.
And so like that, you know, but you're Atlanta. Like, right. You are a part of what we are. You are a part of this story. And that's who we are. And so like, we don't shy away from that, and we are not going to shy away from that. And, you know, and it's crazy when you think about the people who love Flannery O'Connor as an artist, as a writer. You have people like Alice Walker, right? Mm-hmm. Toni Morrison, right? Mm-hmm. Some of these iconic Black authors who also wrestled with her racism. Sure. But still fell in love with her. And that's the position that I found myself in, right. Particularly with this book. Like, I've read her other works, A Good Man Is Hard to Find, you know, stuff like that. This is her first work. It was the second one that was introduced to me. A Good Man Was Hard to Find. That was the first work of hers that I read. But this was the one that like deeply impacted who I was, because I saw myself in Hazel Motes. I saw myself in the main character of this book. And as the book kind of moved and progressed, this cigar just told me that story over and over and over again. And it just became apparent to me like that's where we should go as it related to this cigar.
So if I can pick up from that, I think it's important for white Atlantans not to act like the bigotry is over now, right? Not to act like the racism is over now,
Right.
And not to act like, well, it wasn't my people, it wasn't my family, it wasn't my this, it wasn't my that,
Right.
It's not me. White people are not here to be absolved, by Black Atlanta now. We have to own it, and we have to all look at it and say, this happened, this was real, this was normative. My grandmother was a contemporary of Flannery O'Connor. She died last year at 98, and she was a force of nature. Her name was Frances Gross. She went to Clark Atlanta and HBCU in the 1960s as a white mother of four.
Wait. Your grandmother went to Clark.
Correct.
And HBCU.
Correct.
Wow. Okay, I'm ready. Go.
Yeah. So that was very controversial at the time. Right?
Yeah.
They lived in Buckhead, and she would have house parties, half black, half white in like 1964. That didn't happen at that point. Was it easy? Was it kumbaya? Was it, hey, let's just come? Nah, it was like awkward. It's like, black people at the party being like, when do we get to eat? And white people like, why are these people there like that? And so for ATL, for our brand, we go into that.
Right.
We step into that and say, yeah, you tell me, why do you feel this kind of way? Why do they feel this kind of way? And we, in our friendship, have been working through these issues for 18 years.
Right.
We will never stop working through them. We believe differently on all kinds of things, but we have a brotherhood and a sisterhood, and not in spite of that, but even because of that. And that's what Atlanta has to do. It doesn't mean we're gonna paper over everything and say, okay, now it's all the same.
Right.
I'm a liberal. Liberalism is looking at everything and saying like, you're welcome.
And most people don't like liberals.
And it doesn't mean that we
Not
welcome.
here.
It's different. It's different to say that we welcome a bigot like Flannery O'Connor and we welcome bigotry, because we don't welcome bigotry, right? But the human being behind that comes with a series of experiences, opinions, prejudices, and all that, and we say you are welcome here, and then we got to deal with that. Once we're together in the same room, but let's not keep each other out of the room, because I think this and you think that.
Right.
We're in a moment in our culture in Atlanta and in the country where it's like, well, if before I'm going to have a meeting with you, let's get your first principles on the page first.
Right.
Nah, that's not community.
Right.
Community is messy. Community is dirty. Community is, you're welcome first, and then we start from that welcome to go into the stuff and find connection and community in spite of it. And so that, I think, is what the Wise Blood and ATL Cigar Company help us to do, is to say, I love you. I don't love everything. I don't agree with everything that you say, but I love you, period.
Right.
And if we start there, what is possible? What is possible? It doesn't mean that we paper over, but it means that we are intentional. It means that we can build, a sense of humanity in this diversity and in this complexity in a way that I don't think we've really found yet.
And I think that's Flannery O'Connor's story. Like, right, if you look at Flannery O'Connor's story, what you don't see a straightforward bigotry. Right. You see a woman who wrestled with. Yeah. You see a woman who was not sure on what to do with these feelings and what it meant to be a woman, a white woman, a Catholic white woman growing up in the Deep South, having to come to terms with the theology that she embraced and that was supposed to guide her life, as it related to Black people. And so there is a wrestling. Sure. And you can see it in her work, right? When you look at Black people in Flannery O'Connor's work, for the most part, it's like the show Friends, which I know is kind of weird to correlate those two things. But if you watch Friends, most of the Black characters on Friends always existed. When they were on screen, the white characters on Friends were doing something that was ridiculous, and there was like this. The Black person was looking at you like, "That's what human beings. That's what y'all do. That's what y'all do." And so it was like this kind of like stark contrast, right? Where you got a normal human being who is Black, and you got this white character who is just acting in a way that's kind of ridiculous. And that happens in Wise Blood in like the very first Ashy Pete. That's the very first thing, the very first scene that you get with
Had to do it.
with Hazel Motes and the porter.
Right.
In the book, he's a black man, and Hazel Motes like is acting ridiculous. Like he keeps trying to tell this black man that he knows him. This black man is like, dude, I do not know you. Like I've never seen you.
Right.
And Hazel Motes won't let it go. Like he keeps coming back. This black man is like, look, man, go get in your bed. Like leave me alone. What are you doing? And so yeah, you got this guy who's just doing his job, going about his life, and you got this kind of neurotic white guy who, and that neuroticism is brought out in that interaction with a black person. And so for Flannery O'Connor to do that, and she does it a lot in her work.
Yeah.
Just shows the growth and the journey that she was on. If we look at people in snapshots, it's one thing to take a person's life overall, right? And you see them, and you're a bigot when you're 12, and you're a bigot when you die when you're 85, and you don't see any change in that person's life, and they die. You're like, that's a bigot right there. I'm not really trying to hang out with that dude,
right.
But if you see somebody who's like, yo, I got these issues and I'm struggling with them and I'm wrestling with them, they're showing up in my art and I'm trying to figure out how do I deal with this, and in my personal journey, I'm struggling with this concept. I can get with you. I can get with somebody that's struggling and working through what they got going on.
If you're looking at it,
if you
don't avoid it, just look at it.
If you're looking at it and you're like, this is a problem I got, and I'm trying to figure this out. That's something I can deal with. And I think that's Atlanta. Like, and so to like say that that's not who we are, to say that that's not that, again, like that's not telling the truth, right? That's not telling the truth. And if our goal is to try to unify the cigar community in Atlanta around all these things, why play games? Like, why not talk about it? Why not put it out there? And so the Wise Blood allows us to do that. So in the times that I've talked about it, I talk about Flannery O'Connor's struggle with race, her struggle with class, her struggle with all these things. Even though, gender would probably be something that where people were like, well, what about gender? And I'm like, gender is a huge topic for her personally. And that's, we want to talk about that as well. Like none of these things are excluded from the conversation and excluded from the community, because if we're going to move forward and if we're going to be the community that we should be, these things need to be laid out on the table, and we need to address them and deal with them and not continue to segregate ourselves and act like it doesn't happen.
Right.
We need to, if true community is going to happen, we got to dig into that stuff.
Right.
And so the Wise Blood for us gave us an opportunity to say, ATL as a cigar brand wants to have that conversation. I want you as a smoker to have that conversation. I want you to take this amazing cigar, because it is an amazing cigar. And I want you to sit down with your friend who may be white, who may be black, who may be whatever, who may be of this class, whatever. And I want you to have this conversation.
Talk about the real shit.
Flannery O'Connor. And I want you to have this conversation about race. And I want you to have this conversation about her struggles and your struggles.
Right.
And I want you guys to work it out.
Yeah.
I mean, imagine her context being a Catholic woman in the South in the 1940s.
Yeah, that was completely
you think she would have experienced a little bit of bigotry as well?
Completely.
I mean, John F. Kennedy for Catholics was the Barack Obama of the 1960s. It was unbelievable to them that a Catholic would ever be elected president because of what they experienced in America in the mid 20th century or up to the mid 20th century. And so we wrestle with all this. We want to look at all this and take people as they are. One of my dreams for ATL. I've told the story about my grandmother and how kind of, acceptable she was. Well, let me tell the other side now. My grandfather on my mother's side was a straight up bigot. Died at 103. Never had a nice thing to say about a person of color in my experience. I knew him well. And he came from a side of the family. And I have found the parcel of land in Alabama where that plantation was.
Oh, wow.
I want to go with Leroy to that plantation, to that spot, and have a cigar there, and see what else happens.
Yeah,
because I want to own that in a way that I probably haven't yet, and I want to not have Leroy absolve me in that moment. Say, but you're okay, Peter. You're not that guy. He's not going to do that. But how do we cry together, and how do we smoke together, and how do we talk together, and how do we dream together in the middle of that kind of suffering and that pain? that's the kind of brand that we want to be about, and I think that's what we want to give to the cigar community. Let's go into it and not shy away from it.
So guys, talk about, especially Leroy, talk about that. Now let's connect the dots with what you wanted to come out of the cigar. Those experiences, and did that, obviously the experiences you had with her in the book, and then take that, what are you trying to do here with the actual
with the stick itself?
The cigar? Yeah.
So and we had this conversation the other day with our sales team around the cigar. And so for me, and Peter's gonna say what he's gonna say, but so for me, the times that I've smoked this cigar, even though I know that the construction of the cigar, the rolling of the cigar has not changed, this cigar goes on many different trips.
When I got halfway, it changed.
It changed, but it didn't change at the first third for you.
No,
it changed halfway for you, right? So traditional cigars, they talk about first third, second third, third third of cigars. For me, this cigar doesn't do that, right? Like it just does many. It takes you on many different trips. It takes you on when you get to an expectation of a what you think is going to happen in the cigar. It might not happen, and my way of talking about that is that I think that there's a sensitivity to this cigar. I think this cigar is very, very sensitive to the atmospheric surroundings around smoking it. We know that what you drink changes the cigar, what you eat changes the cigar, the community that you're in changes the cigar. I think this cigar heightens those things in a way that I haven't really found in other cigars. And so it allows you to be able to contemplate and allows you to be able to move. And so the book for me did that, right? Like so what I did actually, when we talked about the book, I was like, yes, this is Wise Blood to me, but I hadn't reread the book. And so we were talking about it. And so I was like, I should probably reread the book now. You know what I'm saying? I read it every few years. I revisit it. And so, so there were more things that came out of the book, things that I didn't see before, things that I knew, but saw them in a different light. And my experiences smoking this cigar do the same thing. So first of all, the construction of this cigar has an Ecuadorian Habano HVA Rosado wrapper, right? So it's got a reddish tone. He's gonna do that. But it has a reddish wrapper, of course, to go kind of with the blood imagery. It has an Ecuadorian Connecticut binder.
That's a very expensive leaf, by the way. So in terms of quality, nobody uses a Connecticut binder because of how expensive the leaf is. Right. We did it because it brightens up the cigar, and then combined with the Ecuadorian Habano HVA Rosado wrapper, it had this kind of complexity that was very interesting to us.
Yeah, very different, very, very, very different. I'm not really sure if there's a cigar that I can compare to. You guys don't notice because you weren't a part of the blending process when those parts weren't added, when parts were taken apart. So the construction of the cigar, as we move through the building of it, adding these pieces, taking apart these pieces, this is a very, very different cigar before the Connecticut got in there. And so, but that adds to the storytelling, that adds to the mystique, that adds to the journey that this cigar takes you on.
I tell you what, man, I found something because you were saying earlier, that she went through a lot. Not only was she labeled as a bigot, but being down in Milledgeville back in the 40s, there had to be a lot that was going on at that time. Right?
Absolutely.
So I found this quote from her, and it was very interesting because when you first think about a bigot, you think this is a racist ass person. They're going to say something stupid and ignorant, and they have no clue, right? So she had this quote, and it said about the Negroes, "The kind I don't like is the philosophizing, phosphorizing, pontificating kind.
She was like,
the James Baldwin kind.
Yeah.
Very ignorant, but never silent.
Wow.
Baldwin can tell us what it feels like to be a Negro in Harlem, but he tries to tell us everything else too. Martin Luther King, I didn't think is the age's great saint, but he's at least doing what he can do, and has to do.
Ooh,
Okay, so let me talk about that. Let me talk about that. Okay, so as a philosophizing Negro, right?
Philosophizing Negro.
As a philosophizing Negro, I can see. I will say that what I believe is working in Flannery O'Connor is not. This is not a statement about Negroes.
No.
This is a statement about
a mindset
and how you approach issues and how you approach problems.
Right.
And so her problem was with the James Baldwin's application of his philosophy to all areas of life that still seem to be separated from any positive action on his part. Right. It was purely, in her mind, I believe, purely academic, purely even for kind of entertainment purposes, and maybe even a commercialization of the issues. Whereas somebody like Martin Luther King, who was very eloquent and very intentional about his words and what he said, was also extremely practical.
Right.
And his words were made for people. They were made for every man. James Baldwin is very heady.
Very much so.
And my struggle with this, when I got into philosophy, when I first started reading philosophy, I found myself in similar struggles, reading the works of Martin Luther King and comparing them to Cornel West. So for me, Cornel West was my philosophical interlocutor when I was thinking about a lot of that I was working with.
Yeah.
And I felt he's very James Baldwin in that way. And,
yes.
and so I can see someone being like, listen, I don't like that kind of philosopher.
Right.
I don't like that kind of thinker who's thinking about these type of issues. I prefer a thinker who works in this space and acts in this way. And I don't necessarily think that it was, even though it was in the context of Negro thinkers, I don't think that it necessarily was about Negroes. But again, I'm not going to say it wasn't, right? Like, I don't know the lady,
we don't
right?
know.
And
but when you take it at face value.
Yeah, when you take it and you pull it out,
right.
Yeah, but I don't, that's the way that I read the work. And again, not to absolve her of her issues and her bigotry, because I don't want to do that.
Right.
I want that on the table. I want that to be part of the conversation.
I mean, for me, I just have regret that I would have loved to have seen a conversation between Flannery O'Connor and James Baldwin.
That would have been amazing.
Hell yeah.
And she was insulated by Jim Crow and everything else to not have to have that conversation. And so we're going to have it for her. Baldwin's debate against William F. Buckley in Oxford was one of the best debates ever. One of the greatest pieces of oratory, period, in the 20th century.
It's amazing.
And she missed out because she couldn't see it.
Correct.
And so, she couldn't see it. So what do we learn from that now? And how do we take that in our brain, in our friendship, in our community, to have the conversation on her behalf, so that we can begin to incorporate these things and not continue to have these walls between us to keep us from getting the beauty of one another. I mean, Baldwin missed out on a conversation with her as well.
Correct.
Because he was, I think, so skeptical, for example, of organized religion, and probably rightly so. But Flannery O'Connor had an appreciation of it until her dying breath that I think could have taught him something. So to us, we want to find these ways in which we can continue to elevate one another and open each other's minds to the possibility of what might be beyond those walls that we're kind of, knowingly or unknowingly held inside. Say, let's get beyond this. Let's step over and man, what could happen if we do that?
Yeah. It's always going to be an ongoing thing.
Absolutely.
the first thing that, one of the big things that we have to look at is human beings. I remember when COVID happened, I used the hashtag be kind. And I use that for a reason, is because we have to remember that we're still human beings throughout all of the drama and the implications of what this quote unquote virus can do and things of that nature. But it also goes back to early racism or early civil rights movements, right? We still have to understand is that we're dealing with human beings, and you have to look at each human being just like we look at cigars, right? I'm going to tie this back to cigars. So, every cigar is subjective, right?
Yeah.
Every human being is subjective,
Right?
Until you get to know it,
Right.
right? And once you understand what that cigar is doing, what that person is doing or saying, now you can make an actual judgment.
Yeah.
So I think that it's very important that I just want to put this out there, is that everybody needs to remember that, be a human being, understand that you're talking to another human being whenever these things come up. And like Peter and Leroy eloquently said, is that you got to talk about it. You have to talk about the issues. You have to talk about the thing. What's the saying? You got to talk about the tough subject
And listen.
and listen. There's the key.
The
Is
listen.
because you also have to understand what's actually being said versus what your thoughts are.
Right.
So I think that this is a huge thing for Atlanta, coming out with this Wise Blood cigar, and I commend both of you, all three of you, and actually saying, you know what, we're going to do it. This is a huge step for those that don't know about the book Wise Blood or the novel Wise Blood. Dig into it a little bit. I challenge you, dig into it a little bit. Try to understand it a little bit. Don't just look at it one-sided. Read it, understand it, and like Leroy said, reread it. That's the only way you're really going to get a good understanding.
And read it while you're smoking a Wise Blood.
Correct.
Absolutely.
Read it while you're
100%.
smoking a Wise Blood.
Absolutely.
All right, and
It's the best pairing we can recommend.
And we're going to do this real quick. So NFL draft is here. We're here at Fellowship. Cam Newton's spot.
Yep.
We're going to get off the serious subject here for a minute. So Falcons, who they taking? I got two Atlanta natives. Peter, you from Atlanta?
Peter, we told you we were going
My
to.
family is, but I'm not from here. Yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
So what's the thoughts?
I'll say this.
Okay. So let's do this, because I know you don't want to get into it.
No, I do.
So let's do this. Okay. What position are the Falcons going to take? Running back,
They got to have four.
wide receiver.
At least. They got to have wide receiver. We need a wide receiver. We need offensive line.
Okay.
Right. We need a running back. We need an edge player. Right.
Mm-hmm.
We need a quarterback, but we won't get one.
We're not gonna. That's not on the table for this year.
We'll hold.
Yeah. Table the quarterback conversation for right now.
Could the Falcons trade up?
Well, I think that's the whole play, right? Like, to be honest, I think that's the play, is to position ourselves to be able to trade for what we need.
Right.
But I think in terms of the draft itself, I mean, I think everybody's leading to first round is probably Tyree Wilson is probably like first round edge for us or whatever. But that might there's a lot
of drama. There's a lot of
drama
dropping and moving up with stock. And for me personally, I think the Falcons they're putting all their eggs in one basket with Desmond. And I think they want to see what he can do.
Interesting.
And for me, this is how I just see it. They want to put enough around him that they've got a year to see what he can do. So for me, I want to see them draft offense, because they've got that. They're building that defense. They got veterans in. They got they got their corner. They got they got their safety. They got their interior. So I want to see what they can do on offense.
All right,
that's my opinion.
Peter, what you got, man?
I got a beef to pick with the draft process, because I think the combine is completely full of shit. I think how fast
I'll be with you.
I think how fast your 40 is and what your vertical leap is has nothing to do, especially for a quarterback, and how you're going to perform under pressure to win games, and especially in playoff games. And I'm not a huge fan of I don't think that Stetson Bennett's an NFL quarterback, but I will say this: the guy won, and he's been fighting against people saying he can't win for years and years and years, his whole life. I love a team, any team, but I would love for it to be the Falcons. But I love any team that would say, you know what, we're going to bet on a winner, and we're going to see what happens when that grit comes to bear. Late in the fourth quarter, late in the season, when you got to make some plays and win a game. I don't think your 40 or your vertical matters at all in that moment. I mean, Tom Brady should have taught us all this a long time ago. And yet it hasn't happened. So we see some quarterbacks going in the first round who were like 6 and 7 last year, but hey, he runs a 4.3 40. But decision making and execution. So I don't understand the whole mentality of scouts looking at this kind of stuff, given the history. You just look at the data, but they're kind of all committed to this. I think that's why, again, the teams that build kind of an open, inquiry process to see like what's really going to take, what's really going to contribute to winning.
Right.
That's what I want to see a team do, and I would love to see the Falcons do that.
I mean, the draft's a crapshoot, man.
It really is. I mean, it's
even
a
in the
lottery,
first
dude.
round,
You can't
it's
even.
a crapshoot. And I'm with you. Do they go deeper into the rounds and find another quarterback? I'd be okay with that. You don't. I mean, you're right. Don't know. Max Dugan, another guy that's out there that nobody's talking about, but he's a winner.
Yeah.
But the Falcons better find a backup. I tell you that, because Ritter, he likes to run.
We got Heineke, baby.
Huh?
We got Heineke, baby.
Yeah, Heineke. Okay.
I mean, I think you're right.
Great backup. Great backup.
I think you're right on. I think you're right on the on what the Falcons need in terms of beefing up the offense. I just think that looking at the positions where we're hurting and what we need. I mean, on offense, we got to get a wide receiver. We got to get a wide, dude. We got to get
somebody to throw to.
We got to get a wide.
You need a one. You need a one, a true one.
What if they put Pitts? What if they take him out of the tight end?
He's a tight end running back, bro.
Yeah, I don't know if he's a wide receiver though.
He's a tight end running back. That's what they're using him for.
Yeah, but
he's a big body.
They got the tight end now. They got Joe New from the Patriots. Yeah. He may not be the best option, but do they move Pitts to a different position?
Yeah, maybe.
The guy's fast.
We'll find
He's
out.
fast. He can run. He can run.
I will say this. ATL Cigar Company has been contributing in a way that most people might not know to Georgia football culture.
Yeah, we are.
Through our president's brother. I don't know if you want to say a little word about him, give him a shout out.
Yeah, we'll give a shout out to Coach. So my brother, he's a high school football coach here. So in fact, like I follow way more high school football and college football than I do NFL football because of my brother. But he constantly sends boys to Georgia, like constantly.
And Georgia's done pretty well the last couple
I think
years.
so. I think they've
time I
done some good things. And so he often gets the opportunity to go talk to the boys, talk to the new folks in the NFL as well, about playing. He talks to the Falcons a lot, so hopefully that'll translate this year into something good, something magical.
It's gonna be fun. I know that.
Yeah, it'll be fun. So real quick, rapid fire, right off the top of your head. All right. Do you smoke in your car?
No.
Frequently.
Okay.
All right.
Yeah, every Monday I smoke in my car. Yeah, for sure.
How many cigars a day do you smoke?
6.
4.
Damn.
That was quick.
Favorite cigar and spirit pairing?
Ooh, favorite cigar and spirit pairing. That's hard.
Magic and red wine. Magic and Cabernet for me.
That's good. That's a good pairing. That's a really good pairing.
I like that.
Damn, I don't know. I would probably say Good Trouble and Dickel 12.
Yeah.
Dickel. Never thought about that.
Dickel 12 and Good Trouble.
Okay.
Black and Lagavulin is also
That's
very nice.
That's
very
pretty
nice.
good.
I can see that. So, all right, last one. Mount Rushmore has 4 faces on it, right? Who's your Mount Rushmore of the cigar industry? I know Luciano's on there.
I like this. I like this question. You've asked me this before. I like this question, and I always fuck it up.
You can't fuck it up. It's your opinion.
No answer, dude.
Man, that's such a good question.
I love this
I
question.
definitely put Luciano on the list. Man, that's a good question.
You stumped him.
All right.
Go.
You thinking?
Go.
Peter's going.
All right. So it's Luciano for me. It's Eduardo Fernandez who started Aganorsa. And Eduardo, started really the farming process back in the early 2000s to make Nicaraguan leaf what it is. And I would say actually all three of the Padron family, all three of the kind of patriarchs of the Padron family have really kind of taken Nicaraguan product where it is. And the fourth person is a roller in our factory named Holman. Holman is a guy that makes incredible cigars, beautiful cigars. He produced a cigar called the Farnafera Bellicoso that y'all will see next. It is. I dreamed about it the other night, and I woke up wanting to smoke it right away. It's my favorite cigar I've smoked in the last 7 or 8 years, and it's an Luciano product, not ATL. But it comes from this one individual who can produce it uniquely, and he's on my top 4.
Holman, thank you, man.
Yeah, I mean, I think in the past I've said I put Eric on mine, Eric Bay from Black Star.
There we go.
And Eric is on there. When we talk about Black-owned cigars, when we talk about the ability to be able to diversify the cigar industry, the work that Eric put in to make Black-owned brands to be appreciated. Yeah. Eric's work is unreal.
His sticks are 18, 19, 20 bucks. I mean, they're expensive and they deserve it.
Yeah. And he put in work, man. Like, if you ever have an opportunity to sit down and get behind the scenes and talk to Eric about the struggles and the hardship that he went through to get Aganorsa, to get Sandy, to make sticks for him. Yep. I mean, to be honest, like, I don't think we would necessarily be able to sit here today.
Agreed.
If Eric had not put in the work that he put in. And so I think he deserves his flowers for the work that he put in. So Eric definitely sits on that list. And I got a soft spot for Carlito. I don't know if I would put him on Mount Rushmore, but he definitely deserves a shout out for me. Right. And a lot of it has to do with, I like his way of being in the world. Yeah. Right. Yeah. Like, so
another community guy.
He's joyful,
very much so. I love his way of, we get to sit down, we get to meet a lot of cigar people. We get to sit down and talk to a bunch of people. But man, that guy's joy, that guy's heart, that guy's, and it's not that he doesn't care about cigars. That would not be true to say.
Right.
But that's not the first thing out of his mouth when he's talking to you.
He wants to talk to you.
He wants to talk to you. Mm-hmm. And I really appreciate that. Mm-hmm. So I don't know if he make Mount Rushmore, but he definitely gets love from me.
He's number 5.
We can carve a new one.
Yeah, we just make another one.
Yeah.
But yeah, so I think that's kind of where we sit.
That's awesome, man. That's awesome. And it's always good to sit down here and talk with y'all, man. I've talked to each one of you individually on camera, with the exception of Peter. So we got to get Peter back by himself.
Yeah. And, there's a lot there, man. This guy's got a lot to say.
Be careful, man.
This guy's got a lot to say. Some stuff you have to edit out.
I'm really kind of shocked though about this. There's one thing I'm shocked about is Peter does not have on Converse. He always wears Converse.
Hey.
Peter's been expanding. He's been expanding.
Upgraded, man.
He's been expanding. He's been having some conversations.
Yeah.
And he's been.
I'm matching Leroy today, or close.
He's close. Today. He's close. Yeah. So yeah, he's been stepping out and doing some things.
Yeah. On the Stan Smith. Let's see you, Peter. Yeah. I see you. All right.
ChatGPT told me, man.
I started to wear my Converse, and I was like, nah, Peter probably won't wear his Converse.
That's funny.
There you go.
But no, man, I really appreciate you guys, man, coming on.
Thank you.
Thanks for having us, brother.
With us. Spread the word, everybody, about the Wise Blood. Go get it in your stores. I'm sure they're going to be dropping pretty soon here, all over the country somewhere. So make sure you smoke it. Tell your friends about it. Tell your friends about ATL Cigar Co., man, and just make sure you spread the word about ATL.
If your store doesn't have it, you need to go to lucianocigars.com and make sure you send us an email so that we can make sure that your store has it. Talk to your shop owner, beat them over the head till they get it in there. But they should be carrying ATLs and Lucianos because these are some damn good cigars.
And by the way, we're launching a burn tomorrow night. Rocky Patel personally had to approve that because it's the Rocky Patel Lounge.
Right.
So Rocky personally approved ATL launching the Wise Blood there and bringing ATL sticks into the Burn Lounge. And we got some very, very special surprises coming for y'all later this year in connection with that. So we'll be excited to share that next time we're on.
Burn tomorrow night.
Burn tomorrow night, 7
It's
o'clock.
gonna be on.
Make your reservations. You don't just walk
Yeah,
up in
you
there
You
better
tomorrow.
better hurry up if you haven't done it already.
Yeah, you better do
you
it.
might be. You got
Maybe.
probably 10 minutes.
Right, maybe.
You watching
maybe.
this, you got 10 minutes to
got
make
10
your
minutes.
reservations, or you're not getting in. I'm just telling you that right now. You're
Correct.
gonna be outside.
Oh man, I really appreciate it, guys. This has been fun. Hopefully, you guys out there keep spreading the word about Barrels and Lease BTB. Last but not least, Leroy, Peter, tell everybody how to get in contact with you guys, man. I'm sorry, Janelle too. Tell everybody how to get in contact with you guys, social media, website, all that good stuff.
Yeah, ATL Cigar Co. ATL Cigar Co. is where we are on all the socials, so you can find us there, and you can probably find our personal stuff through there if you dig far enough. You can find us, but that's an ATLcigar.co is our website, and if you are looking to purchase, you can purchase from your local retailer, and if you are a retailer, go to lucianocigars.com. And that's how you can get plugged in.
And really a big shout out to Fellowship.
Big time.
Akbar, Q, Simone, Teresa, everybody
Yeah.
here, like taking over
CJ
Cam's
Cam.
space. CJ Cam.
My butt is sitting where Cam's butt sat.
Right.
Yeah.
It's in the same. I can feel it. I can
You
feel.
can feel the
I can
heat.
feel it. I can feel it. You know, his butt bigger than mine. I'm sinking into Cam's butt. That's
Yeah.
crazy.
It's kind of a nice feeling.
Isn't it?
I feel like Michael Jackson. I can feel
I
it.
can-
Okay, I'm not singing.
yeah.
But big ups to Janelle also for being here, coming on. Big ups to BTS behind the scene, and big ups to Fellowship again. for
Absolutely.
letting us come in
Thanks a
and
lot,
do
guys.
this, man.
Yeah.
So you guys keep tuning in. Next week
Oof.
we have another tequila company,
Tequila.
Hero
de Leon.
De Leon.
Yep.
Can't wait to get in and talk to him. So you guys tune in next week, man. Catch us. That's gonna be, what is it, Nick? Thursday? I think it's Thursday. Yeah, it's
Yes.
Thursday. Yes, it's
No.
Thursday.
Yes, Thursday.
Thursday, May 4th. You can catch us. And also, we're going to be heading up to Memphis to do the bourbon barbecue and
Oh,
whiskey
that's gonna be
festival.
so
Yeah.
Yeah.
So can't wait to do that, man. So you guys keep tuning in, stay locked, and we appreciate you guys as always. Thank you very much. Have a great rest of your day. Have a great rest of your week and
Go Falcons.
weekend.
Go Hawks.
Watch the NFL draft. Go Hawks.
Go Hawks.
We out.